let's talk a little bit more about the politics. Kamala Harris had a big sit-down interview yesterday with Dana Bash. And, I think a lot of Democrats, we talked yesterday about how a lot of the Democratic base is really waking up to just how failed Democrats have been over the past 50 years in preparing for this moment. Or even consider, the Biden administration kind of got a little bit of a head start on this since the draft was leaked. We all knew this was coming. They had quite a bit of time to prepare some kind of a response, and they got nothing. Any idea that anyone puts forward of, hey, let's get rid of the filibuster, let's codify a vote. Hey, how about what about we could put something Elizabeth Warren suggested, we could put clinics on federal lands. What about these justices that lied during their confirmation hearing? Shouldn't we do something about that? One after another, it's just like, oh, we're really upset and give us $15. Are you going to do anything? Yeah, no, not so much. Here's one example of that with Kamala Harris and Dana Bash.
Can the administration expand abortion access or abortion services on federal land, meaning provide the access on federal land that might be in and around states that ban abortion?
I think that what is most important right now is that we ensure that the restrictions that the states are trying to put up that would prohibit a woman from exercising what we still maintain is her right, that we do everything we can to empower women to not only seek but to receive the care where it is available.
Is federal land one of those options?
I mean, it's not right now what we are discussing, but I will say that when I think about what is happening in terms of the states, we have to also recognize, Dana, that we are 130 odd days away from an election, which is going to include Senate races, right? Part of the issue here is that the court has acted, now Congress needs to act. But if you count the votes, don't appear to have the votes in the Senate.
Well, what do you think of that, Krystal?
I mean, personally, I think it's an idea that is worth exploring. And, to the broader point, issue on idea after idea after idea, they just say, nah, we can't do that. Nah, we won't do that. And yet they somehow want the Democratic base to believe that if you put them back in power in the fall, that things are going to be different. And there's just no evidence whatsoever that's the case. So you can't send out these fundraising missives, send us $15 so we can protect Roe and so that we can overturn this horrible precedent. And then every idea that's brought to you, you shoot it down for one reason or another, or you say, as she did there, not even, look, I'd respect it more if they said, no, I don't think that's a good idea for X and Y and Z reason. No, it's, we're not even really thinking about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, on that particular proposal, I'm pretty sure it would just get defunded, and there's no way that it would get funded by the Senate. So I do think that the core point around the Senate is important. But look, I mean, to the point that we talked about earlier, there is no actual real plan that I've seen from the Democrats yet beyond give us some money. And to do that, you're going to have to win elections. And you need to, look, I honestly don't think it would be that difficult. I mean, Louisiana, for example, does have that pro-life governor, John Bel Edwards. I don't actually see anybody even talking about that, even though he's a Democrat, which is kind of mystifying to me. Same whenever it comes on terms of codifying it at a national level. I mean, that really, they need to present plan. They've talked previously. I mean, actually, I guess Elizabeth Warren is the only person I've even said this or seen say this, saying, hey, we need to pick up these 2 seats, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. That would give us enough votes in order to end the filibuster in the case of this particular vote. And we could do that. But I haven't heard that yet from President Biden.
That's a great point.
If you believe in that, then you should run on it. So there's a lot of dishonesty, I think, that is happening. On the political fallout point from the right, as we predicted and as I previewed yesterday, let's put this up there on the screen. Here in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger in a district, which we'll talk about in a second, which is very much a toss-up for the Democrats. She was running in a very tight race. Yacili Vega, who's the Republican nominee against Abigail Spanberger, here's what she had to say at an event in Stafford County. She said, quote, "I've actually heard it's harder for a woman to get pregnant if she's been raped. Have you heard that?" She was asked this. And then she responded, well, maybe because there's so much going on in the body. I don't know. I haven't, see any studies. I'm processing what you're saying. It wouldn't surprise me. It's not something that's happening organically. You're forcing it. The individual is not, oh my God. I can't even continue reading this, which just, look.
Todd Aiken vibes.
Yeah, Todd Aiken vibes. It just shows you the spot that a lot of these people are in. They have to juggle extraordinarily religious voters at the primary level and also not sound freaking crazy. I mean, this is something where, look, it doesn't take a genius or a reproductive health expert in order to tell you that there's no validity to what she's saying, but it is a preview of exactly the problems that the GOP will face down ballot now for a long time. And it exactly shows you there's no claim on this show that's going to lead to some blue wave come November, but put this up there in terms of the Cook Political Report and their toss-up races. You know, Spanberger is right there in the toss-up category. There are 23 races that are right on the edge. Henry Cuellar's, district, it was an example. Spanberger there. Krystal, you were telling me that she's still probably going to win, this Republican lady, given what's happened with redistricting. But who knows?
I looked into. Yeah, who knows? It's actually my district now. I've been redistricted into this one. So it's the choice of a former CIA op and this lady who is actually a cop.
Oh, good.
So,
Good.
This all came up because she brought up the fact, seeming again to downplay that getting pregnant from rape was a thing. She's like, I've only dealt with one instance like this in my career in law enforcement. And that's what led to this exchange where whoever she's talking to is like, yeah, what do you think about that? Is it less common? And then she goes, well, I haven't seen any studies, but yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. Anyway, it's a D+1 district. That means that the district votes on average 1 point more Democratic than the nation as a whole. I would say that's going to be very tough sledding in this particular year. Now, listen, you always have an advantage when you're incumbent, and you have another advantage when you have your opponent saying things like this. But I will also say that at the congressional level, at the House level, it's very hard to break apart from sort of whatever the national trends are. Now, if it's a Senate candidate like Todd Akin was, for example, gubernatorial candidate's a statewide race, you've got more media, you've got more money, you've got more media attention, like earned media, then candidate quality and some of the crazy things they're saying can make more of a difference. At the House level, it's hard. It's mostly just people are voting based on whatever the national wins are. It really doesn't matter how people position themselves, what they're saying, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's going to be tough for Abigail Spanberger, but ultimately we'll see. I mean, one of the other races that is going to be really critical here is there's a few of them. I actually think the gubernatorial races, it's going to be really interesting to see how this impacts things at the state level, because there's such clear stakes in this fight now since it has been kicked to the state level. So Pennsylvania, perfect example. You have Republicans have nominated someone who is extreme on everything, including abortion, wants to ban it outright in a swing state. And so far, the race has been pretty close. The Democrat, Josh Shapiro, has been up
inside the margin
by a few points, but more or less inside the margin of error. So this is one that, if there wasn't Roe and if Republicans had nominated someone who was more moderate, they would probably win this seat. Now you'd have to say that Democrats will probably win this seat. And again, the stakes are quite high, not only for abortion, but also, as we've discussed, on Stop the Steal Insanity, where this dude is a total nut job on those issues as well and would be able to appoint a Secretary of State. So I think at the gubernatorial level, you may see more of a shift towards Democrats candidate by candidate than you see at the federal level and certainly at the House level, where it's hard to distinguish yourself.
It's interesting, too, to think about this in the Obama context, which is, 1,000 state legislature seats went Republican under Barack Obama. People really do forget this, but the country became very red at the state level under Obama as part of that backlash. He was always fine in terms of getting himself elected, but for down ballot, it was kind of a disaster, both House, Senate, and especially the state.
For every other level of the Democratic Party.
And if you consider the state legislature, Republicans do have a major advantage. They've been concentrating a lot of their efforts there for decades now. So this actually brings me back to the FedSoc point I made yesterday. The organizing level on that down ballot in terms of fundraising, knowledge, attention here in Washington seems very, very lacking compared to the GOP effort.
Well, and I do want to go back to, the discussion we were having about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and, yes, there are barriers to them doing everything they would or could or should do, what the base wants them to do. But contrast their posture versus the Republican posture. The The Republicans didn't look at the polling or the, what numbers they had at that moment in the House or the Senate or the state legislature and say, nothing we can do.
Yeah.
And even now, they're not saying, we won, nothing more we can do. They find a way to get done what they want to get done. Democrats have this, first of all, they have an allergy to governing, right? Second of all, they have, and Obama is notorious for this, they have this view of politics like it's totally static. Like nothing can move, arms can't be twisted, nobody's minds can be changed. Like the votes are what the votes are, and that's that. And, if we've got the filibuster in place today, there's nothing we can do about it. And they have this idea that they are completely powerless to change the dynamics of the political landscape. And so, I'll give you one example of something they could do that doesn't even have to do with abortion, but Justice Thomas in his concurring opinion said, hey, I think we should come for marriage equality and contraception and gay intimacy next. Okay, well, what's stopping you, Democrats, from codifying gay marriage into law? That would be a very tough vote for Republicans. How would Republicans fall on that in the Senate?
Sure.
Yeah. So
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah. I don't either. It's very possible that you actually could get to 60 votes for gay marriage in the Senate because of how much the politics have shifted on that issue. And if you don't, then you have, in stone where these people actually stand on an issue that they don't really want to say anything about. So just as one example of something that they could potentially do that is not going to do anything about abortion right, but at least it will help to protect another existing right that very much seems to be on the table now. So I'm not impressed with their feigned impotence, their total lack of creativity, their unwillingness to sort of rise up and meet the moment, and their constant obsession with basically finding excuses to do absolutely nothing. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.